and I will only respond to what you have to say. We're going to look at Dowry Prohibition Act today and my article. So, who has looked at the legislation?
Ma'am, I've read the article and the case and the definition of dowry
Okay.
from
So, what
the
is your
legislation.
take on the case?
Sapir Singh.
Tell the
Uh,
others what is this case about, and then
so,
what is it that the court have said.
so this is a case uh, about a woman who attempted suicide. So she was married to one person, and within I think 4 years of within some months of marriage, there were demands for dowry from the in-laws, and the father of the wife, the father of the woman, she could not. They could not fulfill the demand, so there were taunts and there was harassment of the woman. And then the father, he gave 20,000 rupees after the birth of the second child to that to the husband of that woman. And thereafter there were more such incidents where they said that your ornaments, the clothes that you brought, they're comparable to rags and they're nothing, we want more, and all those things. That and then the particular incident occurred when on the night the salad, it contained uh, more salt, and the wife, she said that it was the fault of the mother-in-law, and the husband, the mother-in-law and the father-in-law, they joined in saying that the railway tracks are nearby, so why don't we jump on the railway tracks and kill yourself. So next day early morning she went there and she jumped on those tracks, and she did not die although, but she became paraplegic. So her hands and other limbs, they were separated, and then she filed a case against all those three persons. The trial court, the sessions court, it convicted them of uh, for 498 A along with 306. 306 is abatement to suicide. The High Court, it although they convicted them, but it changed the offences to 304 B, that is dowry then, and also 511, which is abatement to uh, doing an offence which is
Attempt,
punishable.
attempt.
Attempt,
511 is attempt.
attempt to do an offence which is punishable with imprisonment or with imprisonment with life. The Supreme Court then they found some mistakes in the conviction by the Session Court and the High Court, and they said that 304B and the uh, the section 306, they do not apply here. Also 116, I think A of the Evidence Act, it did not apply, and also 511 did not apply here. So they convicted the three on 498A, that is cruelty, but they said that since all the three had undergone the substantial parts of their imprisonment, and also the in-laws, they were aged, so they uh, the Supreme Court, it released them on that condition only, and they said that the fine that the High Court has they have imposed is low, and they imposed a fine of 1 lakh each, that is 3 lakhs.
And is it to be given to the accused, to the victim?
Yes, as a compensation.
3 lakhs. When was the incident, Ankit? Can you check up the date?
The incident that happened to Tejinder Palkor.
No, date of the incident.
I'm not
When
sure with the.
when did she attempt to commit suicide?
Let me just check, ma'am.
And what is the date of the decision?
It's 16th. So it will be morning of 17th May 1996.
1996. When is
Yes.
the decision?
2001.
So 96 to
September
2001
2001.
is 5 years, okay?
Hmm.
So after 5 years, she has got 3 lakhs of rupees for having become paraplegic due to cruelty against her. So when you're paraplegic, I mean, you're going to be in that state for the rest of your life. So she has lost 4 limbs. Either they have lost the power, whether they were severed, or whether they have been rendered unusable. That's what paraplegic is about. So for 5 years, what has happened to the victim? Is there any statement about that? Since the time she became paraplegic, where is she living? Who is looking after her? What are their expenses? And she was in less than 7 years of her marriage in 1995. How old do you think she would be at that time? How much life is left of her? Whether then any of those questions were relevant to ask in determining what should be the scheme for her rehabilitation. Whether only punishing them or also the period undergone and that kind of a thing. Was there any justice done in this case? So one is the technicalities of the law involved. So you make a law, you've got 498A, we've got 304B, we've got 306. So the judges keep on saying there cannot be abatement to abatement, abatement to attempt. There can be, because there, that was said that 306 read with and 316, I think. So that then it was said, no, there can be no offense of abatement to attempt. It cannot be that you cannot ask people to attempt an offense, you will only abetting to commit suicide. So that was a wrong section to apply. Then they said that there is no attempt to commit dowry death because that was 304B, read with 511. So no, they have not even attempted. So the only relief was under possible to be found with this kind of, look at the graveness of the situation. This woman is so fed up that she leaves behind 2 children, tries to kill herself, becomes paraplegic, and we have no idea from 1996 to at least this point of time in 2001, what happened to her, who looked after, who bought the expenses, how much were the expenses. None of those questions have been asked. The whole question is on technicalities of law. This section applies, this section doesn't apply, attempt cannot happen. It's just pure and simple technical interpretation of the sections. It is not talking about what was the object of the legislation. Why was 304A meant, 304 be introduced? Then this whole question is also, because the definition said 304B attempt cannot be, because it is not proved that there was the harassment was happening due to dowry. That's where I got stuck. And they say that there were no demand. No, nobody, even the father of the girl, has not said that there was any demand for dowry. The 20,000 rupees given on the second child's birth, second son's birth, are traditional practice. So they said कि बच्चा होने पे we gave this 20,000, and that doesn't amount to dowry demand. That has been given to assuage the assault she was facing. कि ठीक है चलो बच्चे हो गया, 20,000 ले लो, शांत हो जाओ. That is not seen as a demand for dowry. So that is where my discomfort with that legislation started. One, the whole manner in which they focus on technical interpretations of law without looking at the impact of their technical approach. So should that be the way to interpret sections when they have been meant to deal with a social evil which is causing death, which is resulting in death of the women? whether that was the right way to interpret sections or whether there was a possibility or there was a need to look at sections, to interpret the sections in a manner that they can actually achieve the purpose for which they have been made. So, what is the purpose of 498A and 304B? The purpose is to ensure that people do not harass them for money. And this is more problematic because the amendment to this section has taken place already. Why is it that the judges said in this case that payment of 20,000, because that happened before, whether because the party themselves are not saying it is dowry, therefore it's not, there was no, soon before her marriage, there was no demand for dowry. But that's where the catch was, that we would say this was an attempt, even the abetment to commit dowry death. And they were saying that you go and kill yourself. So that is abetting her to kill herself, and that is a dowry defense. But that can happen only one. So what were the requirements of 304B? She should kill herself or die herself, or should die in an unnatural circumstance within 7 years of marriage. Those two satisfied, that she tried to commit that as a consequence of abetment. But then, whether this abetment was because of dowry harassment. They said 20,000 was given, but not as a dowry. It was not a consequence of the dowry demand. Therefore, 304B is not attracted at all. So, what is the definition of dowry? Whether we will go by the people's perception of what is dowry, or whether we will go by reference to the legal language of what is dowry. So, is there a difference in the manner in which people understand what is dowry and the manner in which the word has been defined in the law, especially after the amendment of the section in what 84, 86, but certainly before this case came up. Please read the definition of dowry, what it was earlier and what has it been after the amendment. I can share that with you if you do not have the language before you. Definition of dowry amended in number 34. So this is your definition now. Definition of dowry. In this act, dowry means any property or valuable security given or agreed to be given either directly or indirectly by one party to a marriage to the other party to the marriage, or by the parents of either party to a marriage, or by any other person to either party to the marriage, or to any other person at or before or at any time after the marriage in connection with the marriage of the said parties, but does not include dower or meher in the case of persons to whom the personal Muslim personal law Sharia applies. So now let's look at what is this section talking about dowry in relation to women? By one party to a marriage to the other party to the marriage. So the groom party can also give, no? That will also be dowry. By the parents of either party to a marriage or by any other person to either party to the marriage or to any other person. What does this mean?
They
Is the
applied
practice
that
of
law of
is the practice of dowry gender neutral?
no.
That's how the section says, no? Either party. giving it to
The
either
approach
party.
is
So they are presenting something which is exclusively gendered in a gender neutral manner as a starting point. It's kind of, this struck to me only just now when I was reading it. That look, no, either party giving it to either party to the marriage. What nonsense. Is it a gender neutral offense for you to create it in a gender neutral terminology? What is the legislation trying to say? Is the practice of dowry gender neutral? But they've couched it in that word. So, the starting point. That's something I just discovered. Then it says, so this is the property being transferred or valuable security at or before or any time after the marriage in connection with the marriage of the said parties. So previously, the words were in consideration of marriage. I'll show you the words from the earlier legislation. So there were two changes made in this his definition. The word earlier was before, at the time, or after the marriage. Then that was changed to saying or any time after the marriage. Then they further said, mm, this is the 86th amendment, but I think in the 84 amendment, they had substituted the word in consideration of marriage to in connection with marriage. So now tell me whether in this case, the 20,000 rupees which were given by the father falls within this definition or not. Definition as it exists today. Dowry prohibition. I want to look at this definition again. So the money given at the time of birth of the child falls within this definition or not.
It does.
What is the difference which has been made by substituting the word in consideration of marriage with the words in connection with marriage? And also the importance of the words which says after the marriage to any time after the marriage.
what is the question? I was facing some network issues.
Yeah, so I'm saying whether the definition today, when you read it, you can see the definition in front of you.
Yes.
Yeah, so read the definition and tell me whether this payment of 20,000 rupees after so many years of marriage on the birth of the second child falls within this definition or it does not fall within the definition.
According to the language, these customary practices regarding birth, at least, which is, I don't think that is considered to be a stage which might be directly connected to marriage as such.
Which traditional practices have been excluded from the definition?
Anything subsequent to, like customary practices subsequent to the occasion of marriage?
No, read the definition. there are certain customary practices excluded from the scope of this section. Which are those practices?
Does not include dower or meher in the case of
Right.
persons.
So they have actually paid attention to certain customary practices and excluded them. So the traditional practice of the Hindus of giving money at the time of the son's birth, grandson's birth, is that excluded?
Since the exclusion, I guess, is explicit for these two customary practices, we might be able to broadly interpret and include those customary practices. But
Okay, so one is this example of the father giving 20,000 rupees to stop the harassment. So that's one example. Suppose there is another example where the family says, our house needs repairs, or my son needs to establish a new office. After 5 years, 4 years of marriage, this is the demand of the in-laws, which says, kindly give us 5 lakh rupees because my son needs to, your daughter will be really well taken care of if the son has got good business. So we are demanding you give us 5 lakh. Will that be dowry? Look at the definition again and tell me, will that be dowry?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because the demand has been made in connection with marriage and after the marriage has been performed. So if there was no marriage, there would not have been husband and wives, and there would not have been any such demand by in-laws, by the in-laws.
So for me, that's a simple logic which I have put in my paper also. But why is it that for so many years, 1996, we're talking about amendments took place in 84, 85, 86, we got all these amendments over the years. 10 years later, you decide and you say giving, taking of 20,000 rupees is not part of dowry. So what is the understanding of the judge who come to this conclusion that it was not dowry? It was a traditional practice. And traditional practice are not part of dowry. What is their understanding of the definition of dowry? Suppose the family was to do a bargain. The boy's family was to do a bargain at the time of marriage. That listen, you will pay us money whenever our sons or grandsons are born. You will give us money, 20,000 for every son born. Whenever that happens, you will also give whatever the traditional gifts are at the time of Diwali, at birthday, at New Year. You will give us 10,000 rupees on each one of them for the rest of your life. And if you do not agree, and of course at the time of marriage also you will give this. So they give everything which is paid, which is kind of demanded by them at the time of marriage. And they say that no, this is our precondition for marriage. So after the marriage, the parents say, "ठीक है, अब तो शादी हो गई. Now we will not pay." So the harassment happens. Will it be? So after 5 years, the child is born, son is born, and the family doesn't pay money, and therefore they are harassing her. Will that be dowry? They agreed for the sum to be paid at the time of marriage. The condition for marriage is that they are going to pay these annual or occasional expenses at different occasions. What did the words money taken, demanded, given in consideration of marriage imply?
Now establishing contract.
kind of a
And
contract is the consideration for marriage, but for this money being given, we will not allow the marriage to take place. तो समटाइम वैसे कि शादी से आप जिस दिन मंगनी होगी तो आपने इतना पैसा देना है, शादी के टाइम पे इतना पैसा देना है, और शादी के बाद में आपने इतना पैसा देना है अगले 2 महीने में. So that was the scenario which was expected of, which was thought about, that this is what dowry is. That for the money which has been agreed at the time of the money or property agreed at the time of marriage, whether the actual transfer of the property will take place before marriage, at the time of marriage, or after marriage. But the performance of the marriage ceremony is dependent on you paying us this money. So that was consideration. But the husband family doesn't want to take dowry, but the wife's family is very eager and almost forces the husband family to take dowry because the wife family is quite affluent and they want to gift it to their daughter. That is example of one of my acquaintances. Read the definition again. Giving or taking dowry, and whether there is any consequence which follows for the offense. So when they give it out of their sweet will, is it prohibited? So we are talking about two different things. At this point of time, we are looking at what is the definition of dowry. And then the second question you are asking is, when does it become an offense? So let's first focus on this, and we can come to Sanyam's scenario also, that whether, so what does the law prohibits? Does it prohibit parents giving things to their children at the time of marriage is the question. Or does the law prohibit harassment for receiving that, demanding that? What does the law prohibit and what does the law penalizes? So we'll come to that question. First of all, let's first understand that when we said, when you look at the definition prior to the amendment, as it came in 1961, it was a very, very narrow scenario, limited only to the money, property to be transferred, but for which the marriage will not take place. So when you say marriage will not take place, when does the marriage take place? By doing the sapspadi, by doing the necessary rituals. So that ritual will not be performed unless you agree to pay us either before, at the time, or after the marriage. So that was the definition. Now that was changed to say in connection with marriage. So whether in connection with marriage is limited to only the ceremony, performance of marriage ceremony, or does it refer to existence of the institution of marriage? You say in connection with marriage. If they were not married, if they're divorced, suppose the divorce has taken place and the child is born after the divorce, will they be able to ask money कि अब हमारा grandson हो गया, even though they are not married, they are divorced, you give us 20,000 rupees? Can they ask for the money? Will they ask for such a money? कि divorce हो गया मगर फिर भी grandson हो गया तो हमें payment करिए आप. So what is giving them the right to ask for them? They think they are entitled to this money is because there is a marriage in subsistence. When it says, when the words used are in connection with marriage, my understanding is simple and clear that it was referring to the institution of marriage. It was no more limited to the performance of marriage. And that was the intended change in the definition by the amendment. But does it reflect in the judgments ever since? Till date. So Satvir was a very clear example. They did not agree to the traditional practices. We have this other case. What is the other case, Sanket? Rajinder. 2018 case. Rajinder, is it क्या नाम है केस का?
Yes, ma'am, Rajinder Singh.
So 2018. What's changed 2018? So 1996, we said no, none of these practices. So, and we got many cases after that where they kept on saying the judges, despite the fact that all these traditional gifts, when you're asking for वो मेरे लड़के के लिए आप ऑफिस बनवा दो, हमारे घर की रिपेयर करा दो. Why are they able to ask this money? Because there is a marriage still in existence. So therefore, therefore, all these demands fall within the definition of dowry. But in 2018, cases after cases, if the money being demanded was not a consideration of marriage, but asked without it being the, no, when we say consider, but for this we will not perform the marriage ceremony. So the judges continued to interpret this word in a narrow manner to refer to only that money which has been agreed to. When I use the word money, I'm using to all these other kind of properties and valuable security as well. So that money will change place, but for it, if you do not agree to pay it, we will not perform the marriage. This can be money can be given at any time after also. So it may be ठीक है आपके पास आज की तारीख में पैसे नहीं है, आप हमें 5 साल बाद दे देना 5 लाख रुपया. But you agree to pay that, then only we will perform the marriage. So that is the very narrow definition and understanding of dowry. But that is how traditionally the word dowry was used and understood by people. But law made a huge change by amending that definition, saying in connection with marriage, but because the judges are stuck with the social conception, they have not given effect to this word. So in Rajendra Kumar, they moved a little bit. So from 1984 to 2018, it took them so many years to make one step forward, whereby they say that no, all these demands for house, for business, for repairs of the house made after the marriage, etc., are not are dowry, and they have to be prohibited. In Rajendra क्या है, राजेंद्र सिंह है क्या है, राजेंद्र कुमार है?
Rajendra Singh, state of Punjab.
So in Rajendra Singh case, have they talked about the traditional practices of giving money at the time of childbirth, giving money or Diwali? That has still not been addressed. So we do not know that even today in 2021, we will still have a different response to a Satvir Singh situation if it was to happen today. But they were saying 20,000 rupees, they are not saying dowry. They themselves are saying dowry, then how can it be demand for dowry? Whether your judgment will be any different today on the Satvir Singh facts. क्या कहते हो? Will it be different? Should it be different?
No, ma'am.
दो सवाल पूछे, दोनों में नो नहीं हो सकता.
And the definition nowhere says that traditional gifts must be excluded.
The definition says so.
Nowhere says that traditional
Yeah,
gifts.
nowhere says so. So the whole argument of the lawyer has to be based on what is the meaning of the word marriage in this section. Does the word marriage is referring to the institution of marriage, or is it referring to the ceremony of marriage? Judges have continued to interpret this verse as referring to performance of the ceremony of marriage. But there's nothing in this section which says it has been used only in this sense. So when we say, does the marriage subsist? We are referring to marriage, now we are not saying whether your ceremony was taken place or not. The question is that have you been divorced as yet or not? So the marriage subsists, marriage continues. Therefore, any demand which the in-laws are making or the husband is making is because you are still married to this woman. If the husband is saying कि अपने parents से पैसा ला दो, हमारे business में बड़ा घाटा हो गया, can he force her? Can he harass her? 498A situations, 304B, where she actually attempts to commit suicide, and say no, these were not. There was no demand of dowry soon before her marriage. So far, these husbands have succeeded in that argument. 2018, the judge says no more. You can't demand things for your own business, for your house, for all other things. But they are still silent on traditional practices. In my understanding, the traditional practices all have been banned. You cannot, no, parents can give themselves if they want to. The girl can ask her parents to give her money in times of difficulty, but she can't be tortured for that purpose. She can't be forced to do it. Can she force the husband to part with money because my parents are ill? You must give me money, and otherwise I will not let you get inside the house. So we are allowing the demands from the in-laws still, despite this law being in place since 1961. So it has been 60 years since the time we said dowry is an offense. Giving, taking, demanding dowry is an offense. So let's come back to the situation which Sanyam has asked. Already said yes. He has already thanked Saloni for the answer. So what is it that when the parents want to give, what are they supposed to do? So suppose Sanyam situation when the in-laws are not asking, but बोलते कि नहीं हमारे पास पैसा है हम लड़की को देना चाहते हैं. Does the law stop them from giving that money to their own daughter, or to their son-in-law for that matter, or to the family members of the daughter, the in-laws of the daughter? Does the law prohibit them from doing so? What are the offenses under this legislation?
Some exclusions have been made in Section 3, which leaves
What
a
are the
penalty for
exclusions?
giving.
So what are the
Nothing
exclusions?
nothing in this subsection 1 shall apply to or in relation to presents, presents which are given at the time of marriage to the bride, in brackets, without any demand having been made in that behalf, provided that such presents are entered in a list or maintained in accordance with the rules made under this Act. B. Presents which are given at the time of a marriage to the bridegroom, again in brackets, without any demand having been made in that behalf, provided that such presents are entered in a list maintained in accordance with the rules made under this Act. Provided further that where such presents are made by or on behalf of the bride or any person related to the bride, such presents are of a customary nature and the value thereof is not excessive, having regard to the financial status of the person by whom or on whose behalf such presents are given.
Sanyam, is that clear to you? So what is
Yes,
the
ma'am.
section 3? What is the offense? If any person, after the commencement of this act, gives or takes or abets the giving or taking of dowry, he shall be punishable with, now we have introduced by amendments, mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years, or with fine, which shall not be less than 15,000, or the amount of the value of such dowry, whichever is more, provided that the court may, for adequate reasons, reasons to be recorded in the judgment, impose a sentence less than the mandatory minimum. So we are at the 83 stage in the IPC also. When we made we introduced mandatory minimum sentence of 7 years for rape, we still had a proviso saying for special circumstances less than the mandatory minimum can be given. So here we have said, okay, this is again, what is the maximum penalty for giving, taking dowry?
Ma'am, is that exception only for penalty, or is it for, or are these exceptions also for the offense of dowry also?
Nothing in subsection 1 shall apply. What does that mean?
Ma'am, for penalty only.
Penalty? No. Penalty will not apply if there be an offense only, then it will happen. Na? So there's nothing else which is given in the subsection 1. Then the penalty. उसमें दिया क्या है जो apply होगा? No, but tell me, in 3.1, what is the maximum?
5 years, ma'am.
नहीं, not less than 5 years लिखा है. तो बस सॉलिड सेंटेंस है 5 की, ना तो ज्यादा ना तो कम.
No maximum limit.
अभी नोटिस किया मैंने ये. And I notice it more because we have been pointing this out in case of Juvenile Justice Act. There are also certain offences in that in which mandatory minimum 3 years is given, no maximum given. Now we're finding that this has been a statute book and till date nobody has pointed this out. So see how much importance we give, even though people like me who have been teaching this course for many years. We have not even paid attention that in this section only mandatory minimum has been given, provision for less than mandatory minimum has been given, but no maximum provided. So when we are saying legislative drafting of legislations which deal with social evils, very simple example. So one is that legislative interpretation, legislative drafting. What is the mechanism if somebody gives whether the offences are bailable, non-bailable, cognizable, non-cognizable? Section 3 and 4 are the primary offences. So what is the fourth? What is the offence under section 4? So 3 we found.
Demanding dowry.
Now 4. For demanding. For demanding when we are not given. Any person demands directly or indirectly from the parents or relatives or guardian of the bride or bridegroom. Can you believe this? Who demands money from the bridegroom?
Ma'am, could you explain the second proviso to 2 subclause B, like 3 to B, provide about the having regard to financial status should not be accepted?
No, this will be subjective again. Again saying कि नहीं उन्होंने जितना जो संयम was saying, no, they are giving it on their own. Then later on they file a complaint कि नहीं ये तो demand थी. We know people take loans in order to give dowry. So certainly, and loans which they cannot even discharge next अगले 20 साल तक 10 साल तक वो लोन ही उतारते रहेंगे डाउरी में जो पैसा दिया है. So it's talking about that what is the financial status of the person. So there is this Ambani, he gives 1 crore ka dowry. He has the capacity to give that. But if you are asked even 1 lakh from my maidservant, that is much expensive. She can't afford that. So it is saying that you have to, because we will, so even if the parents, certainly when in Sanyam example, they will say, that no, this has been given voluntarily. How will you prove that this has been given voluntarily, or whether there was a demand for it? तो साहब oral होता है, कोई written में थोड़ी वीडियो थोड़ी बना रखा था कि जब उन्होंने मांगा था. So how do you prove that? What are the mechanisms in the law which then will say that no, there was a demand? अगर unreasonable है, disproportionate है, burden will be on the groom's side. You show us that what were the means and why do you think it was voluntarily given? So there are some provisions created there. But what about when we say you have made the punishment mandatory minimum bhi laga diya? How will the case of demand reach the courts? What is the importance of classifying offences as cognizable and non-bailable or otherwise? Are the offences cognizable under this offence? What is the meaning of, what is the importance of creating an offence as a cognizable offence?
Police is duty bound to register a complaint in cognizable offense, and they have also the authority.
You can do that even suo moto. The
Yes, ma'am.
complaint need not be filed by anybody. If they get to know that there is a demand happening, they can go and file the case themselves, file the FIR themselves. Murder happens, nobody reports. If foul smell aa rahi hai पड़ोस के घर से, that's all. Will the police register FIR or not, or for murder? तो फाउल स्मेल में जब खोल के घर देखा तो देखा उसको गोली मारी हुई है, somebody has died in the house. Because nobody else. Will the police file a FIR or not file an FIR? कि नहीं, कोई ना फाइल करेगा, इसके फैमिली मेंबर्स फाइल करेंगे तो हम FIR दर्ज करेंगे, कहते हैं क्या पुलिस फाइल? Because a cognizable offense है. They can see from the fact that there is a murder. So whether somebody filed or not, cognizable means they will register, initiate their proceedings suo moto. They can do that. Somebody can file an FIR, somebody may not file an FIR. In all cognizable offenses, the police can initiate action on its own. They can arrest the person suspected of the offense. What is the nature of the offenses under this legislation? Are they cognizable?
They are, ma'am, but police have this privilege to conduct a preliminary inquiry if he feels like the
No. Arre, nahi, Saloni, tell me which section makes them cognizable?
Ma'am, section 3, because punishment is not less than 5 years. So whatever punishment is more than 3 years, that is a cognizable offense.
Tell me which section says so. By reference to which section you say cognizable offenses are those punishable with more than 3 years?
CRPC section 2 I case, I'm not able to recall right.
नहीं, आप देखिए सेक्शन है ही नहीं ऐसा. There is no such section. The only manner in which we can find out cognizable, non-cognizable is only by looking at the schedule. They give you a list. What is a cognizable offense? What is not a cognizable offense?
Right, ma'am, but in general हम लोग ऐसा
जनरल में क्या करते हैं? Illegal information रखोगे और कहोगे ये लॉ है तो नहीं चलेगा ना. You're a lawyer.
right, ma'am, sorry.
The only the section you're referring to is referring to whether it is a session trial or it is a what is the other trial? Summary, session और तीसरा क्या होता है? So we have schedule 2 में part 2 है, schedule 1 में second part है, schedule 1 schedule 2 of the CRPC, classification of offences against other laws. So in IPC there is no reference to the quantum of sentence. This is the only list. Summons या तो summons होगा कि sessions होगा, that has been provided for. जब 2 years or 3 years की बात कर रहे हो, it is referring to what will be the procedure to be followed in such cases. There is no definition saying this is cognizable, this is non-cognizable. It's all given. Similarly, bailable, non-bailable definition nahi hai. You have to look at Schedule 1 of the CRPC. So, Part 2 of the Schedule 1 says, if the offence is punishable with death, imprisonment for life, or imprisonment for more than 7 years, it's cognizable, non-bailable, and Court of Session will try. If punishable with imprisonment for 3 years and upwards, but not more than 7 years, it's also cognizable, non-bailable, but it is punishable with triable by magistrate of the first class. Third one, if punishment with imprisonment, and this is about other than IPC. IPC में तो ये schedule लागू होता है. So this schedule can be attracted in case of Dowry Prohibition Act, and by reference to this one, it can become, if punishable with imprisonment for 3 years and upwards, but not more than 7 years, is cognizable. So आपका जो argument है, it is 5 years minimum, therefore it will be cognizable, non-bailable. But does the legislation has a specific provision dealing with this aspect. This will apply if there is no provision in the special legislation. What does the special legislation talk about? In what circumstances it is cognizable?
It says no court shall take cognizance of an offence under this act except upon one, its own knowledge or a police report of the facts which constitute such offence, or two, a complaint by the person aggrieved by the offence or a parent or other relative of such person, or by any recognized welfare institution or organization.
These are the only manner, three manners on a police report. पुलिस कैसे कॉग्निजेंस लेगी इसका? क्यों लेगी?
Because
So that's one. Second one की पार्टी कंसर्न करेंगी या तो कोई एनजीओ करेगा. एनजीओ भी कौन सा है? रिकॉग्नाइज्ड है कि एनी एनजीओ कैन फाइल?
recognized. Recognized welfare institution or organization.
So recognized welfare institution organization. So it is not, and so therefore the primary burden of initiating any action is on the family. And do you think the girl's family have a capacity and status and the wherewithal to actually file these complaints? That is why such a so few cases are filed for dowry provision.
So, ma'am, again, the proviso that I was asking a question about. So, does it mean that if a person has exceeded the financial status and capacity to give a dowry, they are liable to be penalized? And also, like that brings up a question.
There's another exception also, that the family which is giving is not to be penalized. Because it is assumed, एक exception है इसमें. So where they're saying that the family which has been given, the presumption is that they have been pressurized to give, and the other party can prove that they have not pressurized. But the presumption has changed in that scenario. So they are not to be penalized. So coming back to this whole question that when they, suppose they gave voluntarily, they gave 1 crore. But the family is more greedy, saying, हमें तो 1 crore और चाहिए. But the whole thing will come, the whole legislation will attract it only somebody when the victim party actually complains. NGO भी अपने आप थोड़ी आकर के उनके घर में घुस जाएगा. So the whole burden, the mechanism of initiating an action, so आपने punishment तो लगा दी mandatory minimum. But you have not said, remember, when we had looked at the Female Infanticide Act in 1834, at that point of time, the law said that the police officer can enter the house if he suspects female infanticide has taken place. Parda, Gora, soldier, everything was set aside. More important is to prohibit this practice of female infanticide. They said we will not even go into the question who is responsible. If in the village the number of girls born and alive is disproportionate, we will impose community fine. They meant business when they made those provisions. Are we meaning business in this one? Or it, despite the amendment, despite the changes which have been made, does it still continue to be more a symbolic legislation? And therefore, it is no wonder that the changes have not taken place. People are still demanding dowry, people are still giving dowry, girls are still being harassed. So why is the law not effective? Is it because the practice is so deep-rooted that law cannot change? Or is it because the law itself is weak in enforcement? If the law itself is made as a weak legislation, so you can put down, so the focus will be कि देखो minimum mandatory sentence लगा दी. तो ये तो बहुत instrumental legislation हो गया. But what are the mechanisms we have provided for enforcing these strict provisions? Police report बनेगी कैसे? First one says police report. Second one says party victims family. And then we say NGO, recognize NGO. So somewhere in the initiation, and then it is only after amendment. Previously, the offense was bailable, non-bailable. offenses under this legislation? Bailable but non-compoundable was the initial thing. Then after amendment, which says these are non-bailable and non-compoundable. What is the importance of saying non-compoundable? 498A is also non-compoundable under the
That
IPC.
you can't provide compensation to settle the matter.
नहीं, compoundable क्या होता है? Compoundable is compromise.
Yeah, compromise.
498 की complaint करके आप compromise नहीं कर सकते.
Hmm.
Because what is the assumption? क्यों नहीं कर सकते? भाई हमारा हो गया, हमारी सुलह हो गई, तो हम क्यों नहीं compromise कर सकते? इतनी सारी लंबी लिस्ट है ना सेक्शन 320 CRPC में. Compoundable offense is one, which the parties can themselves do. The second, which can be done with the permission of the court. 498 does not fall in there. Sexual assault doesn't fall there. क्यों नहीं करते हम उनको compoundable क्यों नहीं बनाया? Why is this offense not compoundable? Because one recognizes the family pressures will be there to compound, not that the problem has stopped. So law is starting on that assumption. Where they're saying that no, you cannot compound. So if 498 का complaint किया, then what is the procedure to be followed? She has to file a case for quashing of the complaint before the High Court. तो compoundable नहीं है, वहाँ quashing of the FIR होगा. So that is the procedure to follow. So that is certain procedure based on the assumption that women would be pressurized to withdraw their complaints. And therefore, we will come to your rescue. We will let the High Court intervene and then decide, is it that no, you are completely free, you are doing it out of free will, they will ascertain all that, and then they will quash the FIR. So more safeguard has been provided for quashing. So the same has been done here also. You filed a dowry harassment dowry and demand complaint, section 3 or 4, it is not compoundable. And today it is also non-bailable, but of course administrative orders have been there that whenever when domestic violence happens, when the complaints are there, they have to do a preliminary investigation, because this whole focus has been that there has been a lot of false demands, false complaints. So now arrest does not happen automatically, because if it is cognizable on the complaint of the woman or her family, and that woman or the family does file, then it becomes cognizable. And therefore, immediately the police can go and arrest, and that's what was happening. So that has been changed by the administrative order, though not by judicial or legislative amendments. So how many places, so what they said, that giving of all this money voluntarily is not. Viso says, if a list is maintained. So coming back to Sayam's question. So they insist on giving a lot of things, but did they make a list? For me, what I find is funny that even the lists are to be maintained by all the parties, irrespective of the gender and irrespective of the person you are giving, whether it's husband or the bride or the bridegroom. You are supposed to make lists. In how many marriage, in people known to you, people have given money, gifts, blah, blah, blah. But how many of them made any list? If you do not make a list, is it an offense? Whether anybody has ever been prosecuted or convicted for not having made a list. You can see that in the procedure, even though on the face of it, you will say, they are providing now protection, list so that you will have proof. What a lot of people were initially doing, वो पूरा display होता था कि हमारे यहाँ से क्या क्या जा रहा है या वहां से क्या क्या आया है, बहू के घर से क्या क्या आया है, वो पूरा डिस्प्ले होता था जब मुंह दिखाई होती थी. तो उसकी फिर फोटो बना ली जाती थी, फोटो खींच लेंगे, अभी तो वीडियो बनाने लग जाते हैं. So that to just have an evidence instead of list, there's a new mechanism also being used. तो सारे सामान की हमने वीडियो बना ली. But they say, create list, etc. So that was seen as a step forward. That because people are giving, taking, etc., and some people want to give it to their daughter, the daughters want to have it also. As long as it is a matter between the parents and the daughter, I don't think law takes cognizance of that at all. All that is to be done. But what is the offense under section 4?
The demand of dowry.
Section 4.
Yes, ma'am. Penalty for demanding dowry.
Then it's a subsequent one.
4A is ban on advertisement.
Ban on advertisement. But there is one also.
5,
Which
agreement for giving or taking dowry to be void.
Yeah, no, 6. Dowry is for the benefit of the wife or her heirs. So all the money, etc., given to person received by any person other than the woman in connection with whose marriage it is given, that person shall transfer it to the woman. So remember, all these other sections are talking about the money which was a consideration of marriage. Are these talking when it says when any dowry is received by any person other than the woman in connection with whose marriage it is given? Yeah, I think it will still include. So this is 20,000 have been received by the in-laws on the childbirth. If the dowry was received before marriage within 3 months, it has to be given, transferred to the woman. If the dowry was received the time of or after the marriage within 3 months after the date of the receipt, it has to be given. If the dowry was received when the woman was a minor within 3 months after she has attained the age of 18 years and pending the transfer, this person is holding the money for the benefit of the woman. So this 20,000 received after so many years of marriage at the time of childbirth, it is held by the husband or the father-in-law, whether they are obliged under this section to pass it on to her. Section 6 does not cover that. Because it's talking about before marriage, at the time of marriage, and if the woman is a minor. If she's a major and the money is received by her in-laws, that's not what it is talking about. So that money need not be given to her. Then it says 3, where this woman entitled to any property in the subsection 1 dies, then it has to go to her heir, and they have given this further. Who says punishment if he doesn't do that within 3 months? Then he is liable for imprisonment not less than 6 months, which may extend to 2 years, or with fine, which shall not be less than 5,000, but it can go up to 10,000 or both. So there's no reference to what happens. Suppose 1 lakh rupiya diya tha, so he can give a fine of 10,000. Imprisonment के साथ में है, or it says or with fine. So you can give 10,000 rupees, which may extend to 10,000 से ऊपर से तो fine ही नहीं है. So what is our lesson from all the amendments which have taken place? There is no comprehensive amendments in the legislation. Which sections have changed their tenor by making the definition of the dowry change. We have increased this scope, but when it comes to the individual scenarios, all those other states are not included. So do we really mean business by this legislation?
No, ma'am. It's pretty, as you said, symbolic.
So भाई symbolic है, अभी तक भी symbolic ही है. And tinkering करके हमें कुछ प्रॉब्लम उठी, वो थोड़ा सा चेंज कर दिया और हो गया, प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो गई. Look at the Crime in India reports, find out how many convictions have actually happened for an offense under this legislation. So because having a legislation is one thing, but for it to have an impact, हम कभी कहते हैं legislation बनाए तो problem तो वहीं की वहीं है, क्यों है? What are the reasons why women still are continued to be harassed for dowry? Law has not changed anything, despite its being in existence for 60 years.
And the prioritization of the family, so-called family structure, above the women's rights and health and her.
So one is the one
autonomous
social
practice.
practices and social structures. What are the other reasons? the reasons inherent in the legislation itself. Was it meant to change anything? Or was it meant to just create a value there? But no, and it is a criminal legislation. So the moment we declare something as a criminal, message is it is serious. The primary message is it is serious. But whether the scheme of the legislation they really meant to implement this legislation, they really mean the people, because criminal law is all about deterrence. Whether the manner in which this whole thing has been framed and provided for, does it have the capacity to create any deterrence in anybody's mind?
Also, they don't look after the women that they are seeking to protect in terms of
For the dowry
rehabilitation.
legislation is all about punishment, which are minuscule, which cannot be enforced even. And then there is nothing which says at least give something to her for the harassment she suffers. So this is certainly not victim oriented. It is only penalty oriented, but it has been made to protect the victim. So there's a very double standards, which is a double. It's kind of befooling people to say we have made a lot to prohibit dowry harassment. This is what happens when you're trying. When we say that when it comes to social evils, law cannot be the sole means of changing anything. But it can have some repercussions, it can bring about certain changes if it has created a mechanism to do that. But in this legislation, we find there are too many loopholes. And even the small thing with the law did change, the mind did not change because the whole structure of the legislation hasn't changed. The whole structure of the legislation is still limited to what was given, taken, demanded at the time of marriage for performance of marriage. For all this other money which is being given, etc., even if my interpretation is that no, this is included in dowry, there is no specific provision to say if that money after 1 lakh, 5 lakhs are given to the husband, he doesn't give it to her, does she have a claim? The provision are limited to the performance of marriage. There's no cohesion in the legislation also. So one single sentence, one single definition will change, and we expect that everything will become now protection of women. It's not there. So this whole bogey of saying, there are so many laws made for the protection of women is really not happening. It is of no use. Substantively, when you examine the scheme, the manner, the definitions, the provision, the mechanism to enforce, now we are going to protect dowry and prohibition officer. What is the role of that person? Which section, Sayam, you are asking, is it regulating an illegal practice?
Ma'am, section 6.
6 उसके पहले कौन सा पूछ रहे हो? Is it mentioned in the schedule? What was the question? I didn't follow that up. In Sikkim, dowry is given to the bride side by the groom side. In Meghalaya, also it is the same. This is I don't know how to pronounce your name. Sharing. So sharing. When we say dowry, is it dowry or is it bride price? Whether the term used is dowry or the term, because we know that there are practices in certain parts of the country where the groom's party has to give money to the bride's party. But that, in my terminology, is known as bride price. Whether the Dowry Prohibition Act applies to that practice? So in the gender neutral terminology, it will apply. But, and therefore, whether in the communities where bride price is given, and we say now the dowry prohibition legislation does apply to that. Does it, the section 6, which is talking about the money held in trust, will the man get that money? Is this legislation really applying to this practice if it is an evil practice? And so if the other thing I want to know from you is that when the bridegroom does not give that money, the bride price, is he harassed, tortured, does he commit suicide? And this I'm asking from ignorance. Sharing, what do you say?
I think
Is
they're
left?
not in the room right now. I think they've left the room.
Yeah, so all those questions will be asked. No? So when we make a legislation, we say, okay, now bride price also included in that. So gender neutral language include that. But whether the whole legislation is focused on bride price, this practice, is that an issue that the grooms are harassed? They just don't get married. But whether the marriage has taken place, are the grooms tortured because they have not given the bride price? I've not heard of that. Maybe I'm ignorant, but I've not heard of it. I've not read anything about that. Okay, coming back to section 6. What is section 6 saying? No, it's not regularizing because we are talking about, okay, so that's an important question because the word used are where any dowry is received by any person other than the woman in connection. So dowry is, again, Nisayam, we'll have to make a distinction between what is being regulated and what is not being regulated. So if the money has been given voluntarily, the parents have given her a gold necklace. Gold necklace has been now kept with by the mother-in-law. The gold necklace was given voluntarily. It was not on the demand of the mother-in-law or the father-in-law or of the husband. So this was her Sridhan. Even though it is, she says, मैं safe में रख दूंगी, she is holding it in trust for her. And that receiving of that gold necklace was not the offense. So they're not regulating illegal practice. They're only saying that gifts given, which are seen as dowry because they were given in connection with marriage, but that is the gifts which were not offenses. So I will make that distinction in the two. It is not doing an illegal practice because then we are talking about the gifts which have been given voluntarily are not disproportionate to the capacity of the person, and they have been given. Suppose the gold chain has been given to the husband out of love and affection by the parents-in-law, by the girl's parents. Is that the word dowry included within the word dowry, and whether the husband is holding that gold chain in trust for her? It has been given to him. What do you think? Is he obliged to give it back to her?
Yes, he would be.
Because
Um, because of Section 618, received before marriage within 3 months after the date, the person shall transfer it to the woman.
no, you have to go back to the definition. Whether this gold chain is included within the definition of dowry.
Now the gold chain has been given to the bridegroom for like to be as a in the form of a trust for the woman.
So it may seem like it's been given to the husband, but so this fridge given to the family, they will all be included. So there are certainly two kinds of now relationship because previously we were making this distinction between Sridhan and dowry. Sridhan is the one are those things which are given for the exclusive use of the woman. And then in dowry, there are these other things which are given for the use of others in her new family, in her marital family. So those all things have also become are part of the dowry, and they are all covered under six. So at any point of time, कि नहीं मेरा fridge वापस करो, that's how all these things are. When divorce happens, कि नहीं जितना सब दिया था वो सब वापस करो. Because all those things, the sofa, the mirror, the washing machine, the TV, the scooter, they were all given to them in trust for the woman. So if a separation happens, it's just कि मेरी गाड़ी भी वापस करो, मेरा scooter भी वापस करो, मेरा TV भी वापस करो. Because they were all, and they don't do it, they are liable for punishment. So certainly one has to kind of see that that there are limitations of the law when it comes to social practices. Social practices cannot be uprooted just by making a law. And then it certainly cannot be uprooted by a law which itself has got lots of lacuna. And this legislation tells us both the lessons that social evils cannot be eradicated by merely making a law, and certainly not by a law at all. No changes can be brought about if it is not meant to be instrumental. If it is formed in a language which creates confusion, which reinforces different interpretations of different sections. In subsequent sections, we have not talked about all this money given after the marriage in connection with marriage. So that lacuna is again there. So so many lacunas, so many gaps have been left in the legislation that to have any deterrent effect is not there, is not possible in the manner in which the legislation has been framed itself. You do make it non-bailable, you do make it non-compoundable, but in the definition you have left lacuna, in the coherence, in the scheme of the reason you have left lacuna, you have left gaps. Then certainly, when you look at the whole scheme, it's very difficult to justify the approach I've taken in case of interpretation of the term of dowry. Sam, what was your question in relation to the schedule?
Ma'am, it was like whether the offense is cognizable or not. Is it mentioned in the schedule given in after this
Yeah,
act?
yeah. Schedule 1 has got all these columns, na, which tells you the schedule is the most important part of the for our purposes to determine what's what. Schedule has got all these columns. Six. Let me just take out the schedule. It has got 6 columns. One is the section number, then brief of the offense, then it gives out the punishment. Then the remaining 3 columns are the one which tells us cognizable or non-cognizable, bailable or non-bailable, and which court it is triable. So unless, and then there is the part 2 of the schedule 1. I don't think it's a part 2, schedule 2. So schedule 1 and schedule 2. Schedule 1 is applicable to offenses. Okay, no, it's first schedule, part 1 and part 2. So part 1 deals with offenses under the IPC. So there's no other section in the CRPC which tells you that offenses punishable with less than 3 years are bailable, more than that are non-bailable. There's no such provision. There's no provision which says less than 3 non-cognizable, more than 3 cognizable. No such provision. There's no provision which says if it's less than 3, then triable by magistrate. If it is more than 3, triable by session court. There is no such provision. So the only manner in which you can find out whether it's cognizable, non-cognizable, bailable, non-bailable, or triable by which court, it is this schedule. And then part 2 of schedule 1, which tells us that in case of other special legislations, then this category of what is the punishment prescribed. But in this legislation itself, there is a specific provision. So the residuary provision is only the part 2 of schedule 1 will apply only if no mention is made of nature of the offense, bailable, non-bailable, etc., or cognizable, non-cognizable, in that legislation. That legislation does not say which court will try that. Only then this part 2 will come into operation. But because in dowry prohibition in the legislation itself says it is non-bailable, non-compoundable. So So this restriction will apply. This one says in what circumstances cognizable. So it is not cognizable in the same manner in which CRPC Part 2, Schedule 1, Part 2 says so. So that's what. Yes, it is Schedule 1 which tells us all these details. I think we need to stop today unless you have any other query. And tomorrow we'll look at the last leg on sati prevention. Not much to talk about. Just we'll do look at the Janmati Mahila Samiti case, which is on propagation of sati. And then we are ready to wind up.
Mom, I just have that one doubt. Where does it say that people who give the dowry are not to be penalized?
We need to look at that section, that exception.
Section 3. And you said there was an exception created.
ना तो है ना presence given at the time of marriage to the bride. Because when
Ma'am,
the
but
definition,
without any demand having been made in that behalf. So that's the
Yeah.
condition.
नहीं उसके अलावा एक और भी है. So the demand is there.
So does it say when there is, where I'm getting confused. So if there is a demand and they give it, they are to be penalized.
कहीं ना कहीं है जिनमें उनको एक्सेप्शन बनाया है.
The burden of proof is greater for the one who takes it, like taking or abetting.
आने देखो look at section 7(3). Notwithstanding anything contained in any law for the time being in force, a statement made by a person aggrieved by the offence shall not subject such person to a prosecution under this act. वो कहता है demand
Why
थी
does
मैंने
it
दिया.
mention giving at all in section 3, penalty for giving or taking? Are they
No,
drawing a
because-
distinction between the
No,
person
because
who
initial thought was that you have to discourage the giver also to give. Because when people give, the initial ostentatious marriages were also penalized. Because saying that when you set the trend, it becomes a much more desirable thing. People think this is how marriages take place. So initial thinking was that the person who is giving also. But then you don't know that giving is happening under pressure. To
Yes.
penalize the victim itself then becomes it is kind of double whammy. At first those people are demanding, then they are torturing your daughter, then you get penalized because you gave. So then this provision has been there that when we look at 3
So when it says that
section 7, this is also by amendment. This is how they were protected previously. It was all, they were all included. Notwithstanding, so then because of this clause, they cannot be punished. Otherwise, in the definition, they are in the offense, they are included. So this was introduced to in recognition of it only. That actually they are the victims.
So, ma'am, when say an NGO registers a complaint, so would that qualify the family giving it under when a demand is created as an aggrieved?
No, their statement will also be made. कि आपने दिया था.
I'm sorry?
When the complaint will be made, it will be that they gave it under compulsion, na? So they gave, but they gave under compulsion. Duress का भी defense होता है ना? Duress is मतलब ऐसा वाला physical force नहीं है, मगर mental duress तो है ना? And this also says that when they are making a statement कि हाँ हमने दिया, demand थी, तो आपने offense तो commit किया. But then because of this one, it will say that they will not be penalized.
So should they have mentioned, I know they want to discourage giving, but then penalizing that doesn't make any sense.
No, but
Like,
that's
in
what,
terms of,
that's what again, that while they have, now what is the offense? Offense
okay, now only taking would be an offense
is a section
because
में
of
लिखा है,
step 3.
giving or taking to be void है, तो agreement void हो गया. Advertisement, penalty for demanding, penalty for giving or taking. So 3 में amendment नहीं किया ना, यहाँ exception यहाँ नहीं लगाई है. What are the words? Abets the giving or taking of dowry है. Comments में this is gives or takes or abets or gives or takes. So by reference to 3, the givers are also penalized. But because of the 7(3), when they will say that yes, we have done that, they will not be penalized because of that. So यहाँ पे भी इसको ऐसा नहीं, gives वाले को हटा देना चाहिए था. तो ये तो change किया नहीं.
Yes.
ना तो बहुत ही careless amendments हैं.
Okay, okay.
कि ठीक है, डिमांड है, अमेंडमेंट ला दो, लोग शांत हो जाएंगे. ला दिया अमेंडमेंट, हो गया खत्म किस्सा. लोग फिर शांत बैठ गए औरतें. This is how we deal with issues, ना? When you don't want to really address the issue, but you have to have a lobby on your side. You've satisfied the demand. उसकी implication lawyer भुगतेंगे, उसको बनाएंगे, लोग छोड़े जाएंगे या unnecessary harass किए जाएंगे. Whichever way you look at it.
All right, now.
So okay, we meet tomorrow. Tomorrow is what time? 3 to 5, or what time is tomorrow's class?
3 to 5.
We meet tomorrow for the last time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mark your attendance. You haven't done so.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. How is your courses going?